Today we're making a very unique cake. This cake is so unique that it doesn't require eggs, it doesn't require milk, and it doesn't require butter. So back in the Depression era, this was known as a depression cake or a poor man's cake. Some people even call it a wacky cake because of the lack of eggs, butter, and milk. So it's really simple to make. We're going to use some flour, so I've already got my flour here in the bowl, and this is what I like to call a dump cake because you just dump everything in the bowl, put it in the pan, and cook it up. So to this, I'm going to add 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. I'm using dark cocoa powder, and this is Dutch processed cocoa powder. So I'm just gonna set this right here and I'll measure out my 1/3 cup. And this has alkaline, so that's gonna actually help with the rising of our cake. And this is just a really quick cake. So I've got the chocolate in there and I'm using a special dark. You could use a more expensive, like a Dorst cocoa, Dutch processed cocoa. It's a little more expensive, but because it is a Depression era cake, we're gonna go with sort of the lower end quality of things that you can get at the supermarket that are readily available. So to this, I'm gonna add a cup of sugar, and I'm going to also add a teaspoon of baking soda. This is our leavening agent. So this coupled with the cocoa, and then I'm also going to be adding vinegar. Those are gonna be what creates our leavening to help it rise. All right, and then I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vinegar. So see, and it hits that baking soda and it bubbles. So that's our leavening agent. It's kind of like a little science experiment as well. So I've got the vinegar in there, and then I'm also gonna add 1/2 teaspoon, or a little more if you really like it, of vanilla bean paste. You could use vanilla extract as well. And then I'm going to add 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. I'm just using a canola oil. That's what I have on hand. And then I'm also going to add 1 cup of water to this. There is my 1 cup of water. And then I'm gonna just mix this all together. So again, we've got flour, we've got cocoa powder, we've got sugar, we've got baking soda, salt, white vinegar, vanilla extract. I've used vanilla bean paste. You could use extract. You can use a bakery emulsion as well if you have that on hand. Some vegetable oil. I'm using canola oil, and a cup of water. And that oil is going to definitely make the cake very moist. And technically this is a vegan cake because we have not used anything that is, from an animal. We pretty much used all plant-based ingredients for this. So we just want that to get nice and smooth. And then I will just pour it into a prepared cake pan here. You could also use a glass dish, a square, glass Pyrex type baking container. I did spray this with a little bit of nonstick spray, and I lined it with a piece of parchment. So I will go ahead and put this in here. I'm gonna bake it at 350 for about a ½ hour, or until just a few crumbs are left on a tester when I pull it out of the middle. And that's it. All right, our cake is all cooked up, nice and done. There's a few crumbs on the end of that, but it's good to go. So we're just gonna let this cool in the pan, and then once it's all nice and cooled, then we can ice the cake. Or if you prefer to eat it without frosting, that's fine too. You could sprinkle a little powdered sugar or something on it. But that's how you make a cake with no eggs, no butter, and no dairy, and still get a rise.